The silk of Aria's dress whispered against her thighs as she slipped through the French doors, escaping the suffocating perfection of her own birthday party. 18 years, and she'd never felt more like a stranger in her own skin. The garden stretched before her in manicured elegance, fairy lights tangled in the cherry trees like captured stars. Music and laughter spilled from the house behind her, but out here the night breathed differently, cooler, expectant. She pressed her palms against the stone balustrade, letting the cold seep through her skin. Something was wrong. Had been wrong all day, thrumming beneath her ribs like a second heartbeat. A feeling of waiting, of something about to break. Running from your own celebration. Aria spun. The voice came from the shadows beneath the willow tree, smooth as smoke and just as intangible. A figure stepped forward, and the fairy lights caught on dark hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that reflected the moon like polished silver. She should have been startled, should have called for security. Instead, her breath caught for an entirely different reason. I don't know you. But even as she said it, something in her chest pulled tight, recognizing what her mind couldn't. Damien Frost. He moved closer, each step deliberate, measured. And you're Aria Chen. I've been looking for you. The rational part of her brain screamed warnings. Strange man. Dark garden. But her body refused to listen. Rooted to the spot as he approached. The space between them compressed, charged with something electric and inevitable. That's. She swallowed hard. That's a terrible pickup line. His mouth curved, but the smile didn't reach those unsettling eyes. It's not a line. It's the truth. I've been searching my entire life. For me? The laugh that escaped her throat sounded breathless. You don't even know me, don't I? He stopped just beyond touching distance, and the air between them felt thick enough to drown in. Tell me you don't feel it. This pull. She wanted to lie. Wanted to dismiss him as crazy and walk away. But her hands were shaking, her pulse a wild thing in her throat. Who are you? Someone who should have stayed away. His voice dropped lower, rougher. Someone who's risking everything by being here. Then why come? Because I'm selfish and I know it. His eyes locked on hers, and the intensity in them stole what little breath she had left. Because one glimpse of you was never going to be enough. Because even knowing what this will cost, I can't make myself leave. Aria's back hit the balustrade. She hadn't realized she'd been moving, that he'd been advancing, that the distance between them had evaporated like morning mist. His scent wrapped around her cedar and winter air and something darker she couldn't name. You're insane, she whispered. Probably. His hand lifted, fingertips hovering a breath from her cheek. Not touching. Almost worse than touching. Tell me to go. She should. Every instinct of self-preservation screamed at her to run. But a deeper instinct, something ancient and bone-deep, kept her frozen. Wanting. I don't understand what's happening. Neither do I. Not really. I just know that every moment I've lived has been leading here. To you. To this. His thumb traced the air beside her jaw, and she felt the ghost of it like a brand. To midnight. As if summoned by his words. The clock in the garden tower began to chime. 12 deep, resonant tones that seemed to vibrate through her bones. Aria. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer and a warning tangled together. I should tell you. Don't. The word came from somewhere primal. Don't explain. Don't warn me. Just. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. His mouth found hers on the 7th chime. And the world shifted. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative then became something more. Recognition. A sense of coming home to a place she'd never been. His hands framed her face carefully, reverently, while her heart raced impossibly fast. Every nerve ending came alive. Every doubt vanished. When they parted, she was breathless. The connection between them felt ancient, undeniable. Like two pieces of a puzzle, finally clicking into place. His forehead rested against hers, and for one perfect moment, there was only them. Only this feeling of rightness. Only his heartbeat thundering against hers, matching her own frantic rhythm. But something felt wrong. A chill ran down her spine despite the warmth still lingering on her lips. The 12th chime faded into silence. Then something shifted. The air grew heavy, oppressive. A sound like breaking glass echoed in the distance, though nothing shattered. Damien jerked back, his eyes wide with horror. No. Not yet. It's too soon. A scream split the night. Aria stumbled toward the house, her lips still tingling from his kiss. Through the French doors, she saw the crowd parting, people backing away from something on the floor. Someone. Her cousin Maya had collapsed beside the champagne fountain, unnaturally still. People crowded around her, someone calling for a doctor. Maya. Aria ran, but Damien caught her arm. Don't. You can't help her. Let me go. She wrenched free, but before she could take 2 steps, another guest fell, a server who'd been laughing moments ago. Then another. A woman in a green dress. 3 people, all unconscious, all within seconds of each other. What's happening? Someone screamed. Chaos erupted. Her mother's voice rising above the panic, calling for Maya, for help, for someone to do something. People pulling out phones, calling 911, trying to help. Damien's hand closed around her wrist, pulling her back into the shadows of the garden. His grip was iron, unyielding. 3. He said, his voice hollow. It's always 3 at first. The curse is awake. What are you talking about? Tears streamed down Aria's face. Maya, I have to. She's already gone. They all are. He forced her to look at him, his face a mask of anguish and guilt. Listen to me. That kiss? It activated something that's been waiting 300 years. A curse born from a witch's dying breath, meant for my bloodline. Triggered by finding my soulmate. You're crazy. But even as she said it, she remembered the wrongness of the day, the feeling of waiting, the inevitability of his appearance. I wish I was. His thumb brushed her wrist, and even through her horror, she felt the spark. Every time we touch, someone dies. Every kiss, every embrace, it all becomes a weapon. And it's only going to get worse. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. This is impossible, Aria breathed. I know. His eyes held hers, and in them she saw centuries of pain, of loss, of desperate searching. I've been running from this my whole life. My grandmother warned me, told me what would happen when I found you. But I thought I had more time. I thought I could resist. His laugh was bitter. I thought I was stronger than destiny. Let go of me. Her voice shook. Aria. Let go. He released her instantly, stepping back as if she'd burned him. The loss of contact felt like losing a limb. You have to listen, he said urgently. We have 30 days. Maybe less now that it's begun. There's a grimoire, a ritual, a chance to break this. But we have to find it together. And every moment we're close to each other, we're a danger to everyone we love. My cousin. Her voice broke. I know. And I'm sorry. God. I'm so sorry. Raw pain cracked through his composure. But if we don't act fast, she won't be the last. The curse doesn't strike randomly. It targets the people we love most. Your family. Mine. Everyone we've ever cared about. Red and blue lights flooded the driveway. I don't believe you, Aria said, but the conviction was already crumbling. You don't have to believe me. You just have to survive. He pulled something from his pocket, a card with an address. When you're ready to stop running from the truth, find me. But don't wait too long. Can we break it? Aria's voice steadied, cutting through her shock. This curse, you said there's a ritual. Yes, it's dangerous, and the odds aren't good. But there's a chance. She wasn't running. Not from this. Not when Maya and 2 others had just paid the price for her moment of weakness. Then we fight. For the first time, something like hope flickered in his eyes. Together. Together. She took the card, their fingers careful not to touch. But if anyone else dies because of this, because of us, I'll never forgive either of us. Neither will I, he whispered. The clock is already ticking, Aria. And love has never been more dangerous. He disappeared into the shadows like smoke, leaving her alone with the sirens and the screaming and the terrible, burning certainty that everything he'd said was true. Through the French doors, she watched the paramedics rush in. Watched them work frantically over Maya's still form. Watched them exchange those looks, the ones that meant they were already too late. Aria pressed her fingers to her lips and felt the world changing. But she also felt something else. Determination. If love was a weapon, then she'd learn to wield it. If a curse wanted to destroy them, they'd destroy it first. She looked down at the card in her hand, at the address written in elegant script. 30 days. The hunt began now. The police had questioned everyone. Natural causes, they'd said. Simultaneous cardiac events. Tragic coincidence. Her mother had collapsed into sedated sleep. Her father paced the halls like a caged animal. Her younger brother Ethan had locked himself in his room and wouldn't come out. And Aria sat on her bed, turning the card over and over in her hands until the edges went soft. 3 people were gone. Because of a kiss. Because of her. The rational explanation was mass hysteria, contaminated food, and environmental toxins. But rational explanations didn't account for the electric pull she'd felt toward a complete stranger. Didn't explain why her skin still burned where he'd touched her. Hours later. Didn't justify the bone-deep certainty that he'd been telling the truth. Dawnlight crept through her curtains, gray and unforgiving. She was going to regret this. But staying here, pretending normal, felt like standing on train tracks waiting for impact. Aria grabbed her keys. The address led her to the outskirts of the city, where old money built estates to escape the common sprawl. Frost Manor rose from the morning mist like something from a Gothic novel, all dark stone and sharp angles, windows that watched like eyes. Ivy crawled up the walls as if trying to pull the whole structure back into the earth. She should turn around. Drive home. Call a therapist. Instead, she parked and walked to the door. It opened before she could knock. Damien stood on the threshold, and the sight of him punched the air from her lungs. He looked like he'd slept as poorly as she had, shirt rumpled, dark circles under those silver eyes, jaw shadowed with stubble, but even exhausted and haunted, he was beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. You came. His voice was rough, relieved. 3 people are gone. I know, my cousin, I know. He stepped back, creating space. Even that small distance felt wrong. Come in. Please, there's so much I need to show you. The interior matched the exterior, all dark wood and shadows. Portraits lined the walls. Generations of Frost ancestors staring down with varying degrees of disapproval. Aria felt their painted eyes following her as Damien led her deeper into the house. They ended in a library that smelled of leather and dust and secrets kept too long. Books climbed to the vaulted ceiling, and a fire crackled in a hearth large enough to roast a pig. But it was the table in the center that drew her attention, covered in journals, letters, maps, all yellowed with age. My family's obsession, Damien said quietly. 3 centuries of desperate research. Every generation is trying to break what we couldn't prevent. Aria moved closer, her fingers hovering over a journal whose leather binding was cracked with time. Tell me. He poured 2 cups of coffee from a carafe on the side table, clearly prepared for her arrival, and pressed one into her hands. Their fingers didn't touch, but the near miss sent electricity crackling up her arm. 1724, he began, leaning against the table. My ancestor, Lord Christian Frost, was everything you'd expect from old nobility. Handsome, wealthy, entitled. He met a woman named Morgana Blackwood at a winter solstice celebration. She was beautiful, powerful, and completely devoted to him. Let me guess, he was an asshole. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. The worst kind. He courted her, promised her everything. Marriage, eternity, devotion. They planned a wedding for the spring equinox. But Christian was also secretly courting Catherine Montgomery, daughter of a duke. More money, better connections, acceptable bloodline. The bitterness in his voice made it clear what he thought of his ancestor. The night before he was supposed to marry Morgana, he married Catherine instead. Aria sipped the coffee, grateful for the warmth. Morgana found out. She showed up at the wedding, in front of everyone. Damien pulled out a brittle piece of parchment, the handwriting spidery and faded. According to family records, she didn't scream or rage. She just looked at Christian and asked him one question. Was any of it real? The quiet horror of that felt worse than any dramatic scene. He laughed. Damien continued. Called her a foolish girl who should have known better than to think Frost would marry someone with no family name, no matter how accomplished she was. He paused, jaw tight. Then he had his guards escort her out. That's awful. They removed her from the estate. She left devastated, heartbroken, and according to the records, she went to the cliffs overlooking Ravencrest. He met Aria's eyes. And there, she cursed his bloodline with her last act of magic before disappearing into the night. Some say she threw herself from the cliffs. Others say she simply vanished. No one ever saw her again. The fire popped, sending sparks up the chimney. She declared that 7 generations from that night, the true Frost heir would meet their perfect soulmate, the one person in all the world meant for them. And their love would become poison. Every touch, every kiss, every moment of connection would harm the innocent. The curse would feed on their desire, growing stronger the more they wanted each other, until they either found a way to break it, or lost everyone they'd ever loved. Aria's hands shook, the coffee sloshed. That's insane. Morgana was a witch. A powerful one. And heartbreak is the strongest fuel for dark magic. Damien moved to another pile of documents. My family tried everything. Every generation, we searched for loopholes, for ways to prevent it. Some Frosts never married, never fell in love, hoping to avoid triggering it entirely. Others married for duty and lived cold, distant lives. But it still found you. It still found us. His eyes held hers across the space they carefully maintained. The curse doesn't care about prevention. It waits for the genuine connection. The real soulmate. And then it destroys everything. Aria set down her cup before she dropped it. How do you know I'm your real soulmate? Because I've felt empty my entire life until last night. Because touching you felt like breathing for the first time. Because he cut himself off, a muscle in his jaw jumping. Because my grandmother told me what to look for. The signs. The pull. The inevitability. Your grandmother knew. She was the one who decoded most of this. He gestured to the research. Spent 60 years trying to save me from what she couldn't prevent. She passed 3 years ago. But before she did, she made me promise to find the grimoire. Morgana's personal spellbook. She said it was the only chance. Where is it? Ravencrest. The town where Morgana disappeared. It's been abandoned for decades. But the grimoire is supposedly hidden there. We have to. His phone rang, shattering the moment. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. What is it? The hospital. Thomas, my groundskeeper, he just collapsed in the garden. They're rushing him to emergency. Damien's voice was hollow. We were just talking an hour ago. He brought me breakfast. He was fine. Has he passed? They don't know yet. But Aria. He looked at her with dawning horror. It's evolving. Faster than the records indicated. We don't even have to be in the same room anymore. Just existing in proximity is enough. Aria's phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times in rapid succession. With numb fingers, she pulled it out. Texts from her mother. Her father. The hospital. Her father had collapsed at work. Unexplained cardiac episode. Stable but critical. It's targeting our families. Damien said flatly. Just like I said it would. The people we love most. He stepped back, creating more distance. You should go now. Before. Before what? Before it hurts someone else. Her laugh was sharp. Broken. It's already happening. Running won't stop it. At least distance might slow it down. Or we find this grimoire and break the curse. She met his eyes across the library. You said 30 days. 29 now. Then we don't have time for me to go home and you to go alone. We do this together or we don't do it at all. Aria. 3 people at my party. Thomas in your garden. My father is in the hospital. Her voice shook but held. I felt something when you kissed me. Something real. Something worth fighting for. So either tell me how we get to Ravencrest, or get out of my way so I can figure it out myself. For a long moment, Damien just looked at her. Then something shifted in his expression, grief giving way to grim determination. There's something else you should know. He pulled out a worn leather journal, newer than the others. My grandmother's final research. She found a pattern in the curse. Yes, it causes harm. Yes, it escalates. But there are moments, brief windows where the curse weakens. What kind of moments? Acts of selflessness. Sacrifice. When we put others before ourselves, the curse loses power temporarily. He showed her a page filled with equations and notes. She theorized that if we can reach the grimoire and perform the breaking ritual during one of these windows, we have a real chance. Aria felt something like hope kindle in her chest. So this isn't hopeless. It's not hopeless, it's just. He met her eyes. It's going to require us to be better than Christian was. To prove that our love is nothing like his selfishness. I can do that. She said it with certainty. We can do that. We leave in an hour. Pack light. And Aria. He paused. Don't tell anyone where you're going. The curse seems to spread through proximity and knowledge. The fewer people who know we're together, the safer they'll be. She nodded. Already moving toward the door. Already calculating how to get home. Grab essentials. And leave without her mother asking questions. She couldn't answer. Already feeling the clock ticking down. Each second a countdown to the next incident. But now she also felt something else. Purpose. A plan. A chance. At the doorway, she stopped. Damien? Yeah. That kiss last night. Was any of it real? The question hung between them, an echo of Morgana's last words to Christian. All of it, he said quietly. Every second. And I meant what I said, we're going to fight this. We're going to prove that love doesn't have to destroy. That we can be better than the curse expects. She looked at him across the library. This beautiful, haunted man who'd found her against all odds. Then let's go break a 300-year-old curse. His smile was small but genuine. The first real smile she'd seen from him. 29 days, Aria Chen. Let's make them count. The highway stretched empty and gray, miles of nothing between them and the truth. Aria kept her body pressed against the passenger door, as far from Damien as the car's interior would allow. 6 feet, he'd said. Minimum safe distance. Though safe was becoming a relative term. Every pothole that jolted them closer made her heart slam against her ribs. Not from fear. From want. She wanted to touch him. The need was a physical ache. Worse than hunger. More insistent than thirst. Her fingers curled into fists against her thighs, nails biting crescents into her palms. Anything to keep from reaching across the space that felt infinite and paper-thin all at once. Tell me about Ravencrest, she said, needing words to fill the silence before it suffocated them both. Damien's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dead town. Population dropped to nothing after the textile mill closed in the 50s. Most people moved on. The ones who stayed. He paused. Let's just say they have their reasons. What kind of reasons? The kind that involve knowing too much about what happened there. About Morgana. His jaw tensed. My grandmother went there once. 40 years ago. She said the whole place felt wrong. Like the earth itself remembered the betrayal and couldn't let it go. Rain began to spatter the windshield. Fat drops that blurred the world beyond the glass. Appropriate, Aria thought. Everything felt blurred now. Reality and nightmare bleeding together until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Her phone buzzed. She'd been ignoring it for the past hour. 23 missed calls from her mother, 16 from Ethan, a dozen texts she couldn't bear to read. But this number was different. The hospital. I have to take this. Her voice cracked. Damien nodded, his knuckles white on the wheel. Miss Chen. This is Dr. Patel. Your father's condition has stabilized somewhat. But we're seeing some unusual patterns in his blood work. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but we'd like to keep him for extended observation. Do whatever you need to do. Aria pressed her free hand against her mouth. Just keep him safe. Of course. We'll call with updates. Try not to worry, his vitals are improving. She ended the call. Relief and guilt warring in her chest. He's improving, Damien said quietly. It wasn't a question. For now. She swiped at her eyes. But for how long? The research said victims eventually. We're not going to let that happen. His voice was firm. We're getting closer to Ravencrest. Closer to answers. The rain intensified, hammering the roof like a drumbeat. Damien took an exit toward a cluster of buildings advertising vacancy, a motel that had seen better decades. The neon sign flickered. R.M.S.A.V.A.I. Abel. We need rest, he said, though neither of them looked capable of sleep. And to regroup. Go over the research again. The parking lot was mostly empty. A good thing, Aria thought. Fewer people at risk. The lobby smelled of stale coffee and old carpet. A middle-aged woman sat behind the counter, absorbed in her phone. She looked up as they entered, barely registering their presence. 2 rooms, Damien said, as far apart as possible. Only got a corner unit and one on the opposite end. 50 yards between them. That work? Perfect. Damien paid in cash, keeping the transaction quick. The woman slid 2 keys across the counter, and they were careful not to linger, maintaining their distance as they collected the keys and headed out. They found their room's corner unit for her, far end for him. The distance between them felt like a canyon and a breath all at once. Get some rest, Damien said. I'm going to go through the journals again. My grandmother mentioned something about Ravencrest's church. I think there might be a clue I missed. Will you sleep at all? Will you? His smile was tired. Probably not. But I'll try. He disappeared into his room, and Aria stood in the rain for a moment, watching his door. Then she turned and entered her own space of cheap carpet and cheaper furniture. Sleep didn't come easily. She lay on top of the covers, fully clothed, listening to the rain and thinking about everything that had happened. Maya. Thomas. Her father in that hospital bed. How many more people would suffer before they found the grimoire? How many more before one of them broke and surrendered to the magnetic pull that demanded they touch? Despite the cost. But then she remembered what Damien had said about his grandmother's research. The weakness windows. Acts of selflessness. There was a way through this. There had to be. Around midnight, a knock at the door made her bolt upright. Damien stood in the hallway, soaked from rain despite the overhang. His hair was plastered to his forehead, his shirt clinging to his chest, and his eyes held an intensity that made her heart stutter. "I can't do this," he said. "Can't do what? Be this close and not." He pressed his palm against the doorframe. The impact sharp. "I can hear you moving around through the walls. I can feel you like you're pressed against my skin. Every instinct I have is screaming at me to go to you, and I can't. I can't. But I can't stay away either." Aria's hands gripped the doorframe on her side. If she moved an inch forward, if he moved an inch back, they'd be within touching distance. Within dangerous distance. "So what do we do?" "I don't know." His voice was rough with emotion. "Tell me you don't feel it. Lie to me. Make this easier." "I can't." The confession tore out of her. "I feel it. I feel you. Like you're already part of me. And we've only known each other 24 hours. It's insane. It's the curse, has to be. Supernatural manipulation. Is it?" She met his eyes. "Or is the curse just punishing something that's real?" The question hung between them, dangerous as a blade. "We should get some distance," Damien said, but his feet didn't move. "Different motels, different cities. Meet up in Ravencrest when what? When we've convinced ourselves we can control this." Aria's laugh was sharp. "We're past control. We were past it the moment you walked into my garden. Then what? Then we survive. We find the grimoire. We break the curse." She forced steel into her spine. "And we don't touch, no matter how much it hurts. Because the alternative is watching everyone we love suffer." Thunder cracked overhead, close enough to shake the walls. "You should hate me," Damien said quietly. "I brought this into your life. I could have stayed away. But I didn't. I saw you. And I couldn't." He trailed off, pain etched into every line of his face. "I don't hate you. Maybe you should. Yeah, well. I should do a lot of things." She stepped back, creating more distance even as everything in her screamed to close it. "Go back to your room. Look through those journals. We'll figure this out tomorrow." He nodded slowly, retreating. But at the last moment, he paused. "Aria? Yeah? In another life, without curses and death." His voice was barely audible over the rain. "I would have loved you. Properly. The way you deserve." He was gone before she could respond, disappearing into the storm. Aria closed the door, slid down it until she sat on the cheap carpet, and let the tears come. For Maya. For Thomas. For everyone affected by this curse. For her father fighting in a hospital bed. For Damien, carrying the weight of his ancestors' sins. For herself, and the cosmic cruelty of finding her soulmate only to have him become dangerous. But between the tears, something else emerged. Determination. They would break this. They had to. When she woke, gray morning light filtered through the curtains. Her phone showed several messages updates from the hospital. She called Dr. Patel back, her heart in her throat. "Miss Chen, your father had a good night. His heart rhythm is stabilizing, though we're still monitoring him closely. Whatever was affecting him seems to be pausing. We're cautiously optimistic." Aria sagged with relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll keep you updated. But this is a positive development." She ended the call and immediately noticed Damien standing outside, phone to his ear. When he saw her, he crossed the parking lot, maintaining their careful distance. "My sister Cassandra," he said, and Aria's stomach dropped. But then he continued, "She's 23, studying abroad in London. She collapsed yesterday, cardiac symptoms. But the hospital just called. She's stable now. Improving, actually. They're calling it a mystery. But she's out of immediate danger." "My father too," Aria breathed. "Stabilizing." They stared at each other across the parking lot. Rain still falling softly. "The distance," Damien said slowly. "We've been apart all night. Maybe separation is helping slow it down. Or maybe it's the selflessness factor your grandmother mentioned. We're sacrificing what we want for their safety." Aria felt a spark of hope. "We're proving we're not like Christian. Either way, it's working. For now." He pulled out one of the journals. "And I found something last night. Look at this." He held up a page, keeping the journal at safe distance so she could read it. His grandmother's handwriting detailed a map of Ravencrest, with the church circled multiple times. The church was where Christian and Catherine's wedding took place, Damien explained. Where Morgana confronted him. "My grandmother believed the grimoire might be hidden there in the place where the curse was born. It makes sense. Morgana would want the solution close to the source." So we go straight there. We go straight there. It's about 8 hours from here. He checked his watch. If we drive straight through, we can make it by late afternoon. We search the church, find the grimoire, and perform the breaking ritual. You make it sound simple. It won't be, but at least now we have a concrete plan. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw something she hadn't seen before. Hope. We can do this, Aria. We're already making a difference. The curse is responding to us fighting back. She nodded, feeling the determination solidify in her chest. Then let's finish this. They checked out separately, returned to the car, resumed their careful positions on opposite sides of the vehicle. As they pulled back onto the highway, the rain began to let up, not stopping entirely but softening, like even the weather was acknowledging their progress. Tell me about your sister, Aria said as Miles disappeared beneath the tires. Cassandra. Damien's expression softened. Brilliant. Stubborn. She wanted to study Renaissance art history, so she just went to London and did it. Didn't ask permission. Didn't wait for anyone's approval. She's probably the bravest person I know. She sounds amazing. She is. And she's going to be fine. They both are. He glanced at Aria. Because we're going to break this curse. And then maybe we can figure out what we are to each other without death hanging over us. I'd like that. The highway stretched ahead, leading them toward Ravencrest. Toward answers. Toward an ending they would write themselves. The curse had waited 300 years, but Aria and Damien weren't Christian and Morgana. They were something better. And they were done running. Ravencrest appeared through the mist like a forgotten memory. Buildings sagged into themselves, windows dark and empty. The streets were cracked and overgrown, nature reclaiming what humanity had abandoned. But the town wasn't empty. Aria could feel eyes watching from the shadows, tracking their car as Damien navigated the broken roads. Where do we even start? She asked, her voice hoarse from hours of silence. The old church. My grandmother's notes said Morgana's descendants have been guarding her secrets there. He pulled to a stop before a structure that looked impossibly old. If anyone knows where the grimoire is, it'll be them. They stepped out of the car, and the air hit Aria like a physical force. Wrong. Everything here felt wrong, like the earth itself had soured. The temperature dropped 10 degrees between one breath and the next. Stay close, Damien said, then immediately corrected himself. Not close. Just within sight. The church doors opened before they reached them. A woman stood in the threshold, ageless in the way of ancient things. Her hair fell silver white down her back, but her face was unlined, her eyes dark as river stones. Frost blood and Chen spirit, she said, her voice carrying unusual harmonics. The curse walks again. I wondered when you'd come. You're Morgana's descendant. Not a question from Damien. Celine Blackwood. And yes, her blood runs in my veins, though diluted by centuries. She stepped back, gesturing them inside. You seek the grimoire. We seek to break the curse, Aria corrected. Same thing. Different words. Celine moved through the church with fluid grace. The interior was pristine despite the exterior's age. Candles burned at an altar covered in symbols Aria didn't recognize. And the air smelled of sage and something sweeter. The grimoire contains the ritual, but retrieval comes at a price. Name it, Damien said. Not money, not promises. Celine turned to face them. The grimoire is locked behind trials. 3 tests designed by Morgana herself to ensure only true love, the kind worth fighting for, could access it. Tests? Aria's stomach dropped. The first trial measures trust in darkness. The second, sacrifice and difficulty. The third, Celine's smile was sad. The third shows you what could be. All of them will push you to your limits and beyond. Many have tried. None have succeeded. What happened to them? Damien asked. They gave up. Lost faith. Chose the easy path over the right one. Celine moved to a door hidden behind the altar. The trials exist in a space between worlds. Time moves differently there. You could be inside for what feels like hours out here. Only moments will pass. But inside. She looked at them with something like respect. Inside, you'll discover what you're truly made of. Aria's phone buzzed. Another update from the hospital, her father's condition fluctuating. She silenced it, focusing. We don't have a choice, she said. There's always a choice. Celine opened the door, revealing stairs descending into shadow. One warning before you descend, the trials will force you closer. Proximity, perhaps even contact. Everything the curse feeds on. Some have speculated that's the point. To test whether your love is stronger than the curse itself. We'll manage, Aria said, more confidently than she felt. I believe you might. Celine gestured to the stairs. When you're ready. They descended. The darkness enveloped them gradually, thickening until Aria couldn't see her hand in front of her face. The air grew dense, resistant, like moving through water. Damien. Her voice sounded muffled, distant. Here. His voice came from her right. Close. Too close. Don't move. Let your eyes adjust. There's nothing to adjust to. As if responding to her words. A dim light bloomed in the distance. Not bright enough to see clearly. Just enough to create shadows. And in those shadows, movement. The first trial, a voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Morgana's voice, preserved by magic. Trust when sight fails. Find each other in the darkness. Let nothing separate you. The ground beneath Aria's feet shifted. She stumbled, reached out, found nothing but air. Damien, I'm here. Stay calm, I'm coming to you. But the space between them warped, stretched. His voice came from a different direction now. Farther away. This is impossible, Aria called. How do we? A whisper cut through the dark, smooth and insidious. He brought danger into your life. Your cousin suffered because of him. Your father is in the hospital because of him. That's not his fault, but doubt crept in. Isn't it? He could have stayed away. Could have lived his life alone. But he chose this. Chose to find you. Knowing what it would cost. Stop it. Aria pressed her hands over her ears. But the voice seemed to come from inside her own thoughts. He'll cause more suffering. Everyone you love will pay the price. And for what? A connection? Is any feeling worth this cost? Aria. Damien's voice. Urgent. Whatever it's saying, it's lying. That's the trial. It's trying to separate us with doubt. How do I know that's really you? Silence. Then, quietly. Because I'm the one who knows. You stayed awake studying. Until you could recite every answer. Because I'm the one who knows you have a scar on your left ankle from trying to rescue a stray cat. Because I'm the one who can feel your fear like it's my own. And I'd rather face anything than let you go through this alone. Tears streamed down Aria's face. How do you know those things? The same way you know I have nightmares about losing my sister. The same way you know I've felt incomplete my entire life until I met you. The connection is real, Aria. The curse is just trying to corrupt something beautiful. Find me, she whispered. Keep talking. I'll follow your voice. She spoke. About her fears, her hopes, her memories of Maya's laugh and her father's strength. About everything and nothing. Words spilling out like a lifeline. And Damien answered. Told her about Thomas's kindness, about his sister Cassandra's determination, about his grandmother's final words. Love is worth fighting for. Even when the fight seems impossible. The darkness began to thin. Not brightening, but becoming less absolute. Aria could make out shapes now. A figure moving toward her. Reaching out. She reached back. Their fingers met, and the world exploded with sensation, not pain, but overwhelming emotion. Love and fear and hope and determination all at once. A vision flashed through her mind. Her father, struggling but fighting. Alive. Getting treatment. Doctors working with purpose and hope. The vision gave her strength. They stood in a chamber of stone. The first trial complete. But there was no time to celebrate. The walls began to shift. The second trial. Morgana's voice intoned. Sacrifice in difficulty. Hold on to each other through hardship. Release. And fail. A pedestal rose from the floor. On it, an orb showing an image that made Aria's chest tighten. Her father in his hospital bed, monitors showing concerning patterns. His condition is clearly serious. The walls will press inward if you maintain contact, the voice continued. They will stop if you release each other. Choose. Your connection. Or an easier path. The walls moved slowly inward. Deliberate and inexorable. We can let go, Aria said, watching her father's image. Maybe there's another way. There isn't. This is the test. Damien's voice was steady despite the strain in his eyes. We hold on, or we lose everything we came for. The walls continued closing. The space narrowed steadily. In the orb, her father's condition worsened. Medical staff rushed to his bedside. I hate watching this, Aria said. I know. But he's strong. He's fighting. And so are we. Damien's grip tightened. If we fail here, the curse continues. Everyone suffers longer. This is the sacrifice choosing to trust when it's hardest. The walls pressed closer. the space becoming uncomfortably small. Aria closed her eyes, held Damien's hand, and chose to have faith. Faith in her father's strength. Faith in the doctors treating him. Faith that this trial was testing their resolve, not showing them inevitable tragedy. The walls stopped, leaving them just enough space. The orb flickered and the image changed. Her father, stable, receiving treatment, still fighting, still alive. A test of faith. Celine's voice echoed. Not all sacrifices are losses. Sometimes, sacrifice is simply choosing to believe. The floor shifted beneath them, and they descended into the third trial. They found themselves in a room of mirrors, and in every reflection, they saw possibilities. In one, Aria and Damien, older and content, surrounded by family and friends, a life fully lived. In another, both of them walking separate paths, the curse broken but the connection lost, living good lives apart. In a third, themselves as they were now, struggling but together, finding a way through impossible odds. In a fourth, a blank mirror, reflecting nothing, representing a future not yet written. The third trial, Morgana's voice was almost gentle. See what your choices could create. No single future is certain. These are possibilities, not inevitabilities. Choose your path wisely. Aria turned to Damien, and saw understanding in his silver eyes. The ritual, she said. The one in the grimoire. What does it require? I don't know yet. But whatever it is. His voice was steady. We'll face it together. The mirrors shimmered, showing endless variations of possibility. But in the center, one mirror showed something different. Them. Standing exactly as they were now. Holding hands despite the danger. And beneath that reflection, a door materialized. They moved toward it together, stepping through into a final chamber where a book rested on a pedestal. The grimoire, leather-bound, emanating subtle energy, covered in symbols that seemed to shift in the candlelight. Celine stood beside it. You survived. More than that, you succeeded. That alone proves your love is genuine. Damien reached for the book, and Celine nodded her permission. Before you take it, know this. The ritual inside requires true sacrifice. But Morgana wasn't entirely cruel. She left paths, difficult paths, but paths nonetheless. Celine's expression softened. Read carefully. The answer you need is there, though it may not be the answer you expect. Damien took the grimoire, and immediately began reading. His expression shifted from concern to surprise to something like hope. How long do we have? Aria asked. The curse is fully active now. Days, perhaps. But you have time to try. Celine's dark eyes held encouragement. Your families are struggling, but fighting. The medical teams are skilled. And you've proven you can work together under impossible pressure. They climbed back through the church, back to the car where their phones showed multiple updates. Aria's father was stable but still in serious condition. Damien's sister Cassandra was out of her coma, responsive and improving. And between them sat a grimoire containing answers they desperately needed. What does it say? Aria asked. Damien opened the book with careful hands. The pages fell open to a ritual written in dark ink. As he read, his expression transformed from fear to cautious optimism. There are 3 paths here, he said slowly. Death, forgetting, or, he looked up, meeting her eyes, or complete, selfless release. What does that mean? True love's sacrifice isn't death or amnesia. His voice strengthened. It's letting go. Completely. Walking away with genuine love, no resentment, no longing, no bitterness. Just pure wish for the other's happiness. The curse feeds on selfish desire, on possession. But if we can release each other with selfless love, he showed her the page. The curse starves. It has nothing to feed on. Let you go. The words felt impossible. After everything, not losing each other, just releasing the claim, choosing each other's well-being over our own desires. He read further. It says here that if we can achieve true selfless love, even for a moment, the curse breaks. And then, his voice caught. Then we're free to choose what comes next, without the curse forcing us apart or together. Aria looked at the grimoire, at the elegant script explaining an almost impossible task. So we have to genuinely let go. To have a chance at being together. It's a paradox. Like everything about this curse. Damien managed a small smile. But there's something beautiful about it too. We have to prove our love is selfless before we can build something real. That's going to be the hardest thing I've ever done. I know. He looked at her across the car, maintaining their careful distance. But if there's even a chance this works, a chance everyone lives, a chance we get to know each other without death hanging over us, isn't it worth trying? Aria thought about her father fighting in his hospital bed, about Cassandra waking up, about Maya, who she couldn't save, but whose death might still mean something if they could break this curse. Then we try, she said. We learn to let go. The grimoire says we need to attempt the release at the place where the curse was born, the church where Christian betrayed Morgana. Damien checked his watch. We can prepare here, study the ritual, then perform it at dawn tomorrow. Give ourselves time to get ready. Get ready to let go of the only thing that's ever felt right, Aria said quietly. Yeah. His eyes held hers. But maybe that's what real love is. Being willing to release what you treasure most. Trusting it might find its way back. She reached across the space between them, not quite touching, mirroring his gesture from earlier. Then let's prove we're better than Christian and Morgana. Let's show that love can be selfless, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, Damien agreed. They sat together in the growing darkness, the grimoire between them, preparing for the most difficult trial of all, the one where they'd have to say goodbye to save everyone, and pray that goodbye wasn't forever. They drove back to the church in silence. The grimoire sat between them on the console, radiating a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Aria's phone had gone quiet, a silence more terrifying than the constant buzzing. Either her father had stabilized, or the hospital had stopped calling because there was nothing left to say. She couldn't bring herself to check. Celine was waiting when they returned, as if she'd never left. The church interior had transformed. Candles formed a perfect circle in the center of the floor, their flames burning an unusual blue. Symbols were drawn in what looked like salt, creating a pattern that made Aria's eyes ache if she stared too long. You found the third option, Celine said. Not a question. We found something. Damien clutched the grimoire. Whether it works. It will work if your love is true. If it's selfish, possessive, desperate, you'll fail. The curse will claim you both, along with everyone you've touched. Celine gestured to the circle. The ritual is simple in execution, brutal in requirement. You stand on opposite sides. You speak your truth. You let go. That's it? Aria's voice cracked. That's everything. The curse was born from a man who couldn't love beyond his own desires. It dies when two people love beyond themselves. Celine's expression softened fractionally. I've watched 7 couples attempt this over the centuries. None succeeded. They couldn't release each other without resentment, without the wish that things could be different. That longing is selfish. It poisons the ritual. What happened to them? Damien asked. They failed. Tragically. Unable to complete the ritual, they were consumed by the curse along with those they loved. She stepped back. I tell you this not to discourage, but to prepare. If you cannot truly let go, you must choose one of the other paths. Death or forgetting. At least those options are certain. Aria's phone buzzed. She pulled it out with shaking hands. A text from Ethan. Dad's awake, asking for you. Doctors say it's a miracle, but he's stable. Where are you? Relief and terror crashed through her in equal measure. Stable. For now. But the clock was still ticking. Damien's phone lit up simultaneously. His sister out of her coma. Weak, but alive. They locked eyes across the space between them. The curse is giving us a moment, Aria whispered. One last chance to save them, or one last test. But Damien moved toward the circle. Either way, we're out of time. They took their positions on opposite sides. The salt symbols glowed faintly, responding to their presence. Aria could feel the power building, ancient and patient, waiting to see if they would feed it or starve it. Speak from the heart, Celine instructed. No lies. No performance. The magic knows the difference. Aria looked at Damien across the circle. Really looked. The man who'd walked into her garden 3 days ago and changed everything. The man who'd shown her what connection felt like, true, deep, inevitable connection that transcended logic. The man she'd kissed once and would fight for, sacrifice for, give up anything for. The man she had to release. I don't know how to do this, she said. Neither do I. His voice was raw. But we have to try. She nodded, throat tight. You want me to go first? Please. Aria closed her eyes, searching for words that felt true. When she opened them, Damien was watching her with an intensity that made her bones ache. When you kissed me, she began. It felt like I'd been sleepwalking my entire life and finally woke up. Like every moment before that had been preparation, and every moment after was supposed to matter. I've never felt that before. Never felt seen the way you see me. Never felt like I was home in another person. The candles flickered. The cymbals pulsed. And I hate that we only got one kiss. One real moment, before everything went to hell. I hate that the universe is cruel enough to show me what love could be and then make it impossible. Her voice broke. I hate that I met you too late. Or too early. Or in the wrong lifetime. Aria. But. She held up a hand, stopping him. But I would rather have had that one kiss and lost you than never known you existed. I would rather carry this ache for the rest of my life than erase you from it. And if the price of your happiness, your life, your future is walking away and never seeing you again. She dragged in a shaking breath. Then I pay it. Gladly. Because you deserve to live without this curse. You deserve to find someone you can actually touch. Someone who isn't dangerous to you. The cymbals flared brighter. I don't want you to suffer because of me. She continued. I don't want you to spend your life alone out of some misguided loyalty to a connection we can't have. I want you to be happy. Damien. I want you to love someone freely. To have the life you were supposed to have before I triggered this nightmare. And I mean that. Tears streamed down her face. I mean it even though it's killing me to say it. Silence. The candles burned impossibly tall now, their flames reaching toward the ceiling. Is that true? Celine asked quietly. All of it. Yes. Aria's whole body shook. I love him enough to want him happy more than I want him mine. Damien made a sound like something breaking. His hands clenched at his sides, his whole frame rigid with the effort of staying in place. Your turn, Celine said. He nodded, jaw tight. When he spoke, his voice was gravel and grief. I've been alone my entire life. Not physically, I had family, friends, people around me. But there was this. Distance. Like I was watching life through glass, never quite part of it. My grandmother said it was the curse, even dormant. Said I'd always feel incomplete until I met my match. He paused. She was right. And she was wrong. The flames danced higher. Meeting you didn't complete me. It destroyed me. In the best possible way. You shattered every wall I'd built. Every defense. Every carefully maintained distance. One conversation. One kiss. And suddenly I understood what I'd been missing. What real connection felt like. His eyes held hers across the circle. And you're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair, Damien. But if I could go back, knowing what I know now, I'd still walk into your garden. I'd still kiss you. Because some things are worth the price, even when the price is everything. He dragged a hand through his hair. That's selfish, I know. But it's true. The cymbals dimmed slightly. Wrong answer. Damien swore under his breath, started again. What I mean is I don't regret you. I regret the curse, the suffering. But not you. Never you. He took a shaking breath. And because I don't regret you, I can let you go. Not because I want to. Not because it doesn't tear me apart. But because loving you means wanting you safe. Happy, alive. Even if that life doesn't include me. The cymbals steadied. I want you to wake up tomorrow without this weight. I want you to go to college, to travel, to fall in love with someone who can actually hold your hand without causing harm. I want you to have the normal life you deserved before I came into it. His voice cracked. And I want that for you more than I want you beside me. That's the truth. That's the only truth that matters. Aria's vision blurred with tears. You didn't destroy my life. The curse did. Same difference from where I'm standing. No, it's not. She stepped closer to the circle's edge, not crossing it but narrowing the distance. You gave me something real in a world full of pretense. You showed me what it means to connect with someone on a level deeper than words. And yes, the circumstances are horrible. But the feeling? She pressed a hand to her chest. That was real. That was worth it. The candles roared, flames reaching high. So here's what I'm saying. Aria continued. I release you. Not because I don't love you. Because I do. I love you enough to let you live without me. I love you enough to want your happiness over my own. I love you enough to say goodbye and mean it. She smiled through the tears. I love you enough to set you free. The cymbals exploded with light. Damien's face contorted with pain and something like awe. I release you too. I release you from the curse, from the guilt, from any obligation to remember me or mourn what we could have been. I want you to live, Aria. Fully. Freely. Without looking back. The circle between them began to crack. lines of golden light splitting the salt. Do you mean it? Celine's voice cut through the power building in the room. Both of you? No resentment? No secret hope that somehow, someday, you'll find a way back to each other? Aria wanted to lie. Wanted to hold on to that hope like a lifeline. But the magic would know. I mean it, she whispered. His happiness matters more than my hope. I mean it, Damien echoed. Her life matters more than my love. The circle shattered. Light exploded outward, brilliant and absolute. Aria felt something release from her chest, not painful, but profound, like a tether dissolving. The magnetic pull that had drawn her to Damien since the moment they met suddenly vanished. She could breathe. For the first time in days, she could actually breathe. The light faded. The candles extinguished. The symbols were gone, burned away. And Damien stood across from her, whole and alive, and looking at her with eyes that held wonder and grief in equal measure. Is it? She started. I think so. He took a step forward. Then another. Close enough to touch now. Though neither reached out. I can't feel it anymore. The pull. The compulsion. Neither can I. And it was true. The desperate need to touch him had faded. But something else remained. Something quieter. Deeper. Her phone exploded with messages. Aria pulled it out, hands shaking. From her mother. Your father is asking for you. He's awake, stable, fully coherent. The doctors can't explain it, but all his symptoms just vanished. From Ethan, where are you? Dad's fine, like completely fine. It's insane. Get home. Similar messages from the hospital. From friends, from relatives. Damien was reading his phone too, eyes wide. My sister. She woke up. Full recovery. They're calling it a medical miracle. It worked. Aria's legs gave out. She sank to the floor. Overwhelmed. It actually worked. Celine stood in the corner, a slight smile on her ageless face. Morgana's curse was born from selfish love. It could only die from selfless love. You starved it. Well done. Damien dropped beside Aria, not touching, but close. What now? Now. Celine moved toward the door. Now you live. That's what you fought for, isn't it? The chance to live without harming everyone around you? She paused in the doorway. What you do with that chance is your choice. She disappeared, leaving them alone in the church. Aria looked at Damien. Really looked. The connection was still there, she realized. Not the supernatural pull, but something else. Recognition. Understanding. The knowledge of what they'd survived together. We should probably go home, she said. Our families need to see we're okay. Yeah. But he didn't move. Neither did she. Can I ask you something? Damien's voice was soft. That thing you said. About wanting me to find someone else. Did you mean it? Aria considered lying. Considered the clean break. But they'd just shattered a 300-year curse with truth. She wasn't about to start lying now. I meant it in the moment. I meant it enough to break the curse. But, she met his eyes. But I'm not that selfless. I don't actually want you to forget me. I don't want you to find someone else. I want. What? I want to see if what we have is real without the curse forcing it. I want to get coffee and have a conversation that doesn't involve imminent danger. I want to hold your hand because I choose to, not because magic demands it. She laughed shakily. I want a chance at normal. With you. If that's even possible. Damien's expression transformed. Hope, raw and beautiful, flooding his features. You want to try? Actually try. Without the destiny and the curse and the supernatural obligation. I want to see what we could be if we're just us. She held out her hand. No pressure. No magic. Just choice. He stared at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, carefully, he reached out and took it. Their fingers interlaced. Skin against skin. And nothing happened. No one collapsed. No curse activated. Just warmth. And connection. And the simple, profound miracle of touching without consequence. This feels different, Damien whispered. Better different or worse different. Just different. Real. He squeezed her hand gently. I still feel connected to you. But it's not overwhelming. It's just nice. Nice. Aria smiled through fresh tears. We broke a 300-year curse for nice. Hey, nice is underrated. They sat there on the church floor, holding hands, feeling the absence of the curse like a weight lifted. Eventually, they would have to leave. Go home. Face their families. Explain where they'd been. though neither had any idea what explanation wouldn't sound insane. But for now, they stayed. Two people who'd met under the worst possible circumstances, survived the impossible, and somehow come out the other side with a chance at something real. "Thank you," Aria said quietly. "For what?" "For being willing to let me go. For loving me enough to set me free." She looked at their joined hands. "For giving me the choice to come back. Thank you for the same." He raised her hand to his lips, pressed a gentle kiss to her knuckles. No passion, no desperation. Just tenderness. And this time, the only thing that ended was the curse. 6 months later, Aria ran into Damien at a coffee shop 3 blocks from her campus. Not planned. Not fated. Just coincidence. She'd thought about him every day since Ravencrest. Wondered if he'd thought about her. Wondered if the connection would hold without the curse forcing it, or if it would fade like a dream upon waking. But when their eyes met across the shop, recognition flared. And choice. He smiled. She smiled back. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the chair across from hers. Not anymore. They talked for 3 hours. About her classes. His work. About their families, all alive. All well. All blissfully unaware of how close they'd come to losing everything. About the nightmares they still had sometimes, and the strange relief of knowing someone else understood. And when the coffee shop closed, when they had to part ways, Damien asked, "Can I see you again? Like this? No curses. No obligations. Just us." "I'd like that," Aria said. He kissed her goodbye. Brief, gentle, perfect. And this time, it didn't feel like coming home. It felt like beginning one. The curse was broken. The magic was gone. The destiny had been defied. What remained was choice. And possibility. And 2 people who'd learned that sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go so you can choose to hold on properly when the time is right. They chose each other. Not because fate demanded it, but because, given freedom, they wanted nothing more. And that made all the difference. The end.